One of the most famous midrashim that we encounter in the Medrash Eicha Rabati is found in this week's Parsha of Vayetzei. It's a medrash of how when the Jewish people were going into exile and Yirmiyah Hanavi tries to wake up the Avos, the forefathers, Moshe Rabbeinu, to cry for the Jewish people and to plead on their behalf that Hashem have mercy on them. And each one comes before God with an argument of saying how they were moser nefesh, how they gave so entirely of themselves in different aspects of their lives for the sake of God. And in that schus and in that merit, whether it's the Akedas Yitzchak, whether it's Moshe Rabbeinu going, leading the people in the desert, in very various major items that were done, God should have mercy on the people. And the Medrash tells us, and this is found in source number 2a, Kafsa Rachel Imenu. It's as if Rachel Imenu's voice was then heard. She jumps up into the arena and she says, Ribono Shalolam, you know that Yaakov loved me with boundless love, and that he served my father for 7 years that he could marry me. And when our wedding day came, my father decided to put my sister in my place. But I was not jealous of her. If I, who am nothing but ashes and dust, was not jealous of my rival, how could you, master of the universe, be jealous of idols worshipped by the Jews, which are but naught? And indeed, we know, and this is a very famous parak, we read this Haftarah in Rosh Hashanah, that Yirmiyah Navi says, as if Kivyochel Hashem said, Rachel, mini kolech mi bechi veinayach medima. Rachel, stop from your weeping. It will be in your schus and your merit. V'shavu banim l'gvulam. The people return back to the borders. V'shavu me'eretz oyev. They'll return back from the borders of their enemy. What was this major monumental act that Rachel Imenu did that was able to Kivyachol sway the heavenly din, the heavenly judgment, to allow mercy to enter in, that although we're going into Golus, there is a promise that we will one day return? What was it about Rachel Imenu's act that was different from all the other actions? What was it about the Mesirut HaSimanim? What was it about that night when Yaakov Avinu had made up special signs with Rachel, so that Lavan would not trick him? And Rachel Imenu gave over these signs to Leah that she should not be embarrassed. What was it in that action that was so great, that was so tremendous, that it's in that schus and this merit that Hashem promises Rachel Imenu that your children will return one day back to the land? That is our overall question for today. And again, as I say almost by every shiur, and I can't but emphasize this enough, we're going to see many, many ideas of Mirz Hashem today, but as many as ideas as we're going to see, there's so much more to be learned, and recognize that we're just mamish scratching the surface. The second question, and all three questions are really connected to this one idea of giving over these simanim, giving over these signs, is later in our parsha, and this is source number 3. Little Reuven goes out and he collects dudaim, he collects some type of flowers, which they say have some type of fertility component to them, and he brings them to his mother. And Rachel Imenu, who sees these dudaim, these flowers, says, T'nina li mi dudai benech. Can I have please some of these flowers? To which Leah Imenu responds. She says, was your taking my husband insignificant? Hama'at kachtech et ishi v'lakacht gam et dudai beni, and now to even take my son's dudaim? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with you tonight in return for your son's dudaim. Obviously there's a lot to be said about this particular section. We'll talk a drop more about this next week when we talk about Kever Rachel and the whole idea of why Rachel Imenu is not buried in Hebron. So we'll touch on this pasuk as well. But the obvious question when we look at this pasuk is, how could Leah Imenu, who we know was a greater level of sitkus, according to some of Farshim, than even Rachel Imenu. Leah Imenu was a tremendous person. How could she have the audacity to say to Rachel Imenu, it's not enough you've taken my husband? Who gave her that husband? Who was the one who was Moser the Simanim? Who gave her over the signs that she was able to marry Yaakov? Was it not Rachel? From where does Leah come and say, and is it not enough you take my husband, you want my the flowers as well? How does Leah even come to say such a thing? And our final question is, after this incident in 4a, the Torah tells us that Hashem remembered Rachel, Vayizkor Elokim et Rachel, and God hearkened to her and he opened her womb and she conceived and gave birth to the son whose name was Yosef. Vayizkor Elokim et Rachel, and Hashem remembered Rachel. Asks Rashi in 4b, what was it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered? And Rashi gives a number of answers. The first answer he gives, Zachar la shemasra simaneha la acholta. He remembered, HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered how 14 years